The woman crouches in the alley behind the mercantile, blood crusting her split lip. Rain hammers the mud around her bare feet. She pulled the shawl tighter, but it does nothing against the cold that lives in her bones now. 3 days since they drove her from the boarding house, 2 nights sleeping beneath loading docks. The baker's wife threw dishwater on her this morning when she approached the back door. "Half-breed trash," the woman hissed. She does not cry anymore. The tears dried up somewhere between her mother's death and the burning of their cabin. White father, Kiowa mother, wanted by neither world. The town tolerates her until it doesn't, and now it doesn't. Thunder splits the sky. She watches boots pass the alley mouth. Good leather, bad leather. Women's button shoes that pause, then hurry away. No one looks down the narrow space where she huddles. She has become invisible through shame. The temperature drops as evening settles. Her fingers lose feeling first, then her toes. The shaking starts deep in her chest and spreads outward. She knows this cold. It is the cold that takes people. She thinks of her mother and wonders if dying feels like sleeping. A shadow blocks the alley entrance. She looks up through the rain. The man stands motionless, studying her, tall, broad-shouldered beneath a canvas duster, dark hair hanging wet past his collar. Comanche features unmistakable, even in the dimness. His eyes are black and unreadable. He does not speak. Instead, he shrugs out of the duster and holds it toward her. Rain soaks his shirt immediately. He waits. The coat drips between them. She stares at the offering, unable to parse kindness. "You will die here," he says. His English carries the careful pronunciation of a second language. "I have a tent, food, fire." "Why?" Her voice cracks from disuse. "Because no one else will." He turns and walks away, coat still extended behind him. After 10 steps, he stops, does not look back, simply waits in the downpour, water streaming from his hat brim. She tries to stand, and her legs buckle. He hears her fall, returns without hurry, bends down and lifts her with surprising gentleness, one arm beneath her knees, one supporting her back. She weighs nothing. The duster falls across them both. "My name is Dakota," he says against the storm. She does not give hers, cannot remember, if she still has one that matters. He carries her through the rain, toward the edge of town where the decent people never go. The tent sits in a clearing beyond the last fence line. Canvas walls glow orange from the fire within. He pushes through the flap and sets her down on blankets near the warmth. The space smells of wood smoke and sage. Clean, organized. A cooking pot hangs from an iron tripod. His bedroll lies against the far wall, already claiming its territory and leaving hers. "Dry clothes," he says, pulling a shirt from a wooden chest. "Too big. Better than wet." He turns his back and tends the fire. She peels away her soaked dress with clumsy fingers. The shirt swallows her, hanging to her knees. Warmth begins its slow work. The shaking continues, but softer now. Dakota ladles soup into a tin cup, hands it to her, does not watch her drink. He moves to the tent opening and stands looking out at the rain, giving her the privacy of his absence while remaining present. "Why do you live outside town?" she asks. "They prefer it. But you trade with them." "They need my horses." "Need is different than want." He glances back. "I break horses. Sell them. The white men pay well for animals they cannot break themselves." She sips the soup. Venison, wild onions, salt. Her stomach cramps with hunger and relief. "What's your name?" he asks the rain. "Sarah." My father called me Sarah. And your mother? Adahi. Dawn. He nods once. Adahi suits you better. My father thought Sarah would help me fit in. She laughs without humor. He was wrong. Dakota returns to the fire and sits cross-legged. His movements carry the economy of someone accustomed to solitude. He pours coffee from a battered pot. My father was Comanche. My mother was Mexican, taken in a raid when she was young. She never stopped loving him, even when love was complicated. He drinks. People see what they want to see. Blood matters more than heart. Where are they now? Dead. 10 years gone. The fire pops and settles. Outside, the rain continues its percussion against canvas. Sarah finishes the soup and sets the cup aside. The warmth makes her aware of how exhausted she is. The bedroll, Dakota says, gesturing to the blankets where she sits. Yours tonight. I will sleep by the fire. This is your home, and you are guest. It is the old way. I don't want charity. Then it is trade. He meets her eyes directly. You will mend the shirt you are wearing. The elbow is torn. I am poor with needle. She looks down and finds the frayed hole. That's not equal. Hospitality is never equal. It is simply what we do. He pulls a blanket around his shoulders. Sleep, Adahi. Tomorrow has work enough. She lies down, her body remembering comfort it had forgotten. The fire crackles. Dakota sits like a statue, watching the flames. She studies his profile, the strong nose, the weathered skin, the scar cutting through his left eyebrow. Thank you, she whispers. He does not respond. Perhaps he is already asleep, sitting up. Perhaps he simply knows that gratitude between survivors needs no acknowledgement. She closes her eyes and sleeps without dreaming for the first time in weeks. Section 3. What the Town Sees. Morning brings low fog and the sound of horses. Sarah wakes to find Dakota gone, the fire rebuilt, and cornmeal mush waiting in the pot. She eats slowly, listening to his voice beyond the canvas speaking low Spanish to the animals. The language of his mother. She finds the torn shirt and a sewing kit left beside her blankets. Her hands remember the work. Small stitches, tight and even. Her mother taught her this. She reinforces the elbow and continues down the seam, fixing what time had loosened. Through the tent opening, she watches him move among the horses in the corral. 5 of them, wild caught and half broken. He works a bay mare on a long rope, circling, his movements patient and certain. At noon he enters, sees the mended shirt folded on the chest, says nothing but his eyes linger on the careful stitching. I should go, Sarah says. Where? She has no answer. There is a second tent, he says. Smaller, for storage. It can be yours if you stay. I need help with the horses, feeding, grooming, and someone to trade with the women in town. They will not sell me fabric or flour without charging double. They won't sell to me either. They will sell to a woman shopping for her husband. The word hangs between them. I'm not, I know, but they will assume. Let them assume. It is easier than truth. She considers this transaction shelter for labor, safety for deception. 1 week, she says, then I'll move on. 1 week, he agrees, but something in his tone suggests he knows better. The smaller tent becomes hers. He helps her raise it, their hands working opposite corners, pulling rope taut. She sweeps it clean and lays out the bedroll he provides. The space is barely large enough to lie down, but it is hers. Private. She can lock the flap from inside. That afternoon, they walk to town. She carries the shopping basket. He walks slightly ahead, clearing path without appearing to. In the general store, Mrs. Henderson's mouth pinches tight when she sees them. "Wondered when you'd take up with your own kind," the woman says to Sarah. Dakota pretends not to hear. Sarah sets coins on the counter, exact change, and takes the flour and coffee without responding. They leave to whispers that follow them like flies. On the walk back, Dakota speaks quietly. "My father once told me that hatred is fear, wearing different clothes. They fear what they cannot control." Does that make it easier? No, but understanding removes surprise. The week passes into 2, then 3. Sarah tends the horses and finds peace in their simple needs. She cooks meals that Dakota eats with reverent attention, as if tasting civilization he'd forgotten. They develop rhythms: sunrise coffee, evening fire, the companionable silence of shared work. She unpacks nothing from the small bundle that contains her life. One evening, the sheriff arrives with 2 men from the church council. They stand outside the firelight like judges. "Dakota," the sheriff says, "there's been talk. There is always talk. About the woman, about impropriety." Dakota rises slowly. "She works. I pay in shelter and food. What is improper?" "You know what people think," says Deacon Morris, his face rigid with righteousness. "A Christian woman, living with a savage in sin." "I am not Christian," Sarah says from the shadows, "and I am no one's concern." "You're a white man's daughter." "I'm a dead man's daughter, and these good Christians left me to die in an alley." The deacon's face reddens. "There are proper channels. The church closed its door," Dakota says. His voice remains level, but something dangerous moves beneath it. "You speak of propriety while she starved. Do not pretend virtue now." The sheriff shifts uncomfortably. "Just saying, folks are uncomfortable. Maybe the woman should move to the next town. Fresh start." Dakota looks at Sarah. The question in his eyes is genuine. She could leave, should leave. These men offer her an exit from the scandal she's creating simply by surviving. "No," she says. The word surprises her as much as them. "I stay." The men leave, muttering about sin and savages. Section 4. What remains? October arrives with frost, and the decision to stay becomes real. Sarah plants winter herbs near her tent: sage, thyme, rosemary. Her hands press seeds into earth, and the gesture feels like promise. Dakota watches from the corral, says nothing, but the next morning she finds a crude fence built around the garden to keep the horses out. They speak less and say more. She learns he cannot read. He learns she cannot forget. They trade knowledge like currency. She teaches him letters scratched in dirt. He teaches her how to approach a frightened animal. Both lessons require patience. Both require trust. The town dance comes in November. "You should go," Sarah says, mending his good shirt. "I do not dance." "You should be seen. For business." He studies her face. "You want me to go." "I want you to have what you need." What he needs, she realizes, is acceptance she cannot give him. Her presence costs him customers. 3 men have taken their horses elsewhere. She has become the weight that drags him down. That night she packs her bundle. The sound brings him to her tent flap. He does not enter, but stands in the opening, backlit by stars. "You are leaving. I'm the reason they hate you more. They hated me already. You are the reason I remember what a home feels like." "Dakota." "I failed you," he says quietly. "With the sheriff. I should have told them you are under my protection, that any insult to you is insult to me. Instead, I let them speak as if you were a problem to be solved. You were being practical." I was being coward. He sits heavily on the ground outside her tent. My father would be ashamed. He taught me that strength without honor is just cruelty wearing different skin. Sarah crawls to the opening and sits facing him, the tent flap between them. I'm afraid, she admits, of staying, of needing this. I am also afraid of being alone again, of how much I need you to stay. He looks at his hands, but fear is poor compass. What's a better one? Choice, deliberate choice. The frost glitters in his hair. He looks older in the moonlight, worn by years of existing between worlds. She sees herself reflected in that weariness. If I stay, she says slowly, I stay as equal. Not guest, not charity. Partners then. In what? In whatever we build. She thinks of her planted garden, of the mended shirts and groomed horses, of mornings when coffee waits and evenings when fire burns steady. Small things, daily things, the architecture of a life. I don't know how to do this, she says. Neither do I. We learn together. He extends his hand palm up between them, an offering, a question. She places her hand in his. His fingers close gently, scarred and warm. In town the next day, they walk side by side instead of staggered. When Mrs. Henderson sneers, Dakota does not pretend deafness. He simply says, My wife thanks you for the fair price, and counts coins onto the counter with deliberate care. Sarah does not correct him. The lie becomes truth through repetition. By spring, even they half believe it. She unpacks her bundle finally, spreading her mother's blanket across her bedroll. Dakota brings her a chest he built from scrap lumber, crude but functional. She fills it with the pieces of herself she'd kept hidden. The garden grows, the horses multiply. They build a cabin slowly, one room, then two. Her tent becomes storage. His becomes memory. On summer evenings, they sit on the porch they constructed together, watching the sky change colors. She leans against his shoulder. His arm rests across her back. They speak little because little needs saying. Do you regret it? She asks one night. Bringing me home? I did not bring you home, Dakota says. We built home. There is difference. What difference? One is rescue. One is choice. Choice is stronger foundation. The stars emerge one by one above them. Somewhere in town, people talk. But here, in the space they carved from nothing, their silence is louder than any judgment. Sarah closes her eyes and feels the solid weight of his presence. Real, chosen, earned through patience and work and the daily decision to stay. This is enough, she whispers. This is everything, he answers. And in the morning they wake to tend what they have planted together. If this story touched your heart, don't miss our next tale of forbidden love and second chances. Subscribe to our channel for more Western romance stories, where outcasts find belonging, broken souls discover healing, and love is built one quiet choice at a time. Hit that subscribe button and ring the bell so you never miss a story of courage, redemption, and the families we choose for ourselves. New stories every week, because everyone deserves a place to call home. Subscribe now. Your next favorite love story is just one click away. Drop a comment below. Which moment moved you most? When Dakota first offered his coat, or when Sarah chose to stay?